Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the Daily Market Insight for Tuesday, the 12th of September. All right, now dollar yen a little bit lower. The Bank of Japan governor, Ueda, has come out and sort of said basically, heightened expectations for some sort of intervention. I think it's a little bit of a tough one because if the US dollars keeps going up, they're going to be selling dollars into a strong market, which is a bit of a battle they've lost about 50 times before. But at the same time, if these US inflation numbers on Wednesday come out weak, well, the dollar's going to drift lower anyway. And if they come over the top with some bit of intervention on top, it's going to be a win-win, and you'll see dollar yen crap out about 10 cents. So that's something we've got to keep an eye on. But generally speaking, the US dollar is just taking a bit of a breather, right? And this is part of the cycle leading into a big number, right? And when I talk about numbers, the CPI inflation numbers are the go-to at the moment, right? It's the last big number that the central banks are hanging their hat on. And if we get strong numbers, it pushes them towards, a longer term of higher risk, or higher interest rates, I should say. Now there's no chance, well, there's zero chance of a possibility of a rate hike. I think September 1920 from the Fed, but about 43% for November, right? So what we're talking about, these inflation numbers will be around the second meeting. Now the dollar index sort of just drifting lower. Dollar Swiss though, right? It isn't backing off, right? It's like the market's pausing. Now dollar yen would have caused a little bit of dollar weakness yesterday. There's a little bit of a gap in the market here as those comments from Ueda sort of filtered through the market. Dollar CAD just under a little bit of pressure. But with oil rallying, you've got to think there's got to be value here in dollar CAD, right? The sort of $7 or $8 that oil has increased, it's going to put downward pressure on dollar CAD. Once again, weak inflation numbers there. The dollar's going to go lower as well, and that's sort of it's a triple whammy there for dollar CAD. It looks really good. Euro, I wouldn't say the foot's off the throat, but it has got room to breathe at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised to see it back towards 108.60 by the time we get to Wednesday's CPI numbers, right? The market will be short. This is like a zone where you can see a nice short squeeze, right? And what I mean by that is the market's sitting short and there's no real level. So it just slowly climbs until it hits a level, and then everyone gets stopped out. Sterling, pretty much the same as Euro. Aussie's coming back with a bit of a bite, as is the Kiwi. Now, we've got some good levels here, right? So don't think for a second, I don't think the dollar's over just yet. It does come down to the inflation numbers themselves. And this week, right, if I just throw up the calendar here, this week we've got a huge amount of really good second tier numbers and some top tier numbers there as well as we go through the week. So just looking at like in Australia, Westpac consumer confidence. Well, the consumer confidence numbers are having a bit of an impact. And then you've got the NAB business confidence, right? So these are a couple of local banks competing for some data, give themselves some street credit. Not like super massive. The unemployment numbers out of the UK and the average earnings, well, that's something you can hang your hat on, right? That's some numbers there that do have direct implications for the central bank. Got the ZEW numbers out of Europe and Germany, and that's pretty much all she wrote, right? So today, the Australasian European sessions, yep, they're sort of in the spotlight. And then you come down and you've really got to, when you are trading, for those new traders, you've got to look at the week as one big giant day. Where is momentum going to increase? Where is trader attention going to really focus? Wednesday onwards is where it really kicks off. Now, there's a bunch of things, manufacturing production numbers, obviously the GDP numbers out of the UK, right? Huge Wednesday. But the whole week, if anything, the whole month almost hinges on these CPI numbers, right? So this is what we're looking at, the consensus numbers here. And I'll have a good preview tomorrow for this, but this is the major focus across the board. And it may be a case where, it's like if you go to the gym, right? You get massive improvements straight away, and then the improvements get smaller and smaller as you get stronger. Same with the inflation numbers, right? You get these, once they hike interest rates up, you get some distortion, then you get some really massive pullbacks in inflation as the crunch hits, the interest rate crunch, and then the numbers become a little bit slower. But I tell you what, weaker numbers here, there'll be no chance of a hike in November. There'll be a big sell-off in the dollar, and equities will rally, right? And vice versa for strong numbers. But this is the whole focus for the week. And then on top of that, if you're not sort of super comfortable looking at the inflation numbers as you go through the week, well, then you scroll down here and you see, as we go through Thursday, we've got really great data to follow up. Okay, we've got the Aussie employment numbers, the ECB interest rate decision, US retail sales, PPI, the jobless claims, got the press conference, and then you've got some more data down here, some massive Chinese numbers. Once we know what the dollar's doing, and that will become very obvious from these inflation numbers, right? If we get strength or weakness, then we know one side of the equation when we are trading the major currency pairs, and obviously also equities. So if we get weakness here, the dollar's going to be lower, then all we have to do is pick the numbers off from here. So I'm thinking Thursday, Friday, if we get good inflation numbers Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are going to be gun trading days. And what I mean by that is, say we got weakness in the US dollar and we get strength here, you get double the move, right? Because one side's weak, one side's strong, you get this bigger move. And that's what we're looking for across the board. We get a follow-up to see about the inflation numbers with retail sales and PPI. That's a great one to double check, make sure everything's in line in the US. And then you've got, as we come into Friday, you've got to, unless you've been hiding under a rock, you've got to understand that there is massive pressure on the Chinese economy and the whole system. Very important for Aussie Kiwi. They're the first two ones directly impacted. Then you've got industrial production numbers, Michigan consumer sentiment numbers, well, the New York Empire State Manufacturing Index, and then Christine Lagarde speaking there as well. So hang on to your hats, right? Because today we do have some numbers coming out, which, you can sort of get yourself into a trade, but, don't rush and fall over yourself because the inflation number is only 1 day away. This is the go-to. These are opportunities to pick things off. And as I was saying there before, when you look at the charts, okay, we've got some tangible levels here. And as you come closer towards the data, a lot of these instruments, if I just come back over here to the daily charts, have been sort of trending a bit. So on the hourlies, I think there's a chance for a bit of a false break across the board here, right? Here's the dollar index, massively up here. And the dollar's obviously very strong across the board, as we know. So this number here, though, is the one that could potentially reshape these trends. If the US numbers are weak, right, we've got opportunities across the board as these currencies correct. If the data comes out strong, and I'm talking really strong, well, then we're going to see the continuation of these moves. So we've got, this is like it's like just draw a line through the market. These numbers will give us the answers to what we're doing for the next 2, 3, maybe even month, 2, 3 weeks, maybe even the month. So that's where we are. And where can you sort of look to get into these trades? Well, the hourly charts have the levels. Like here, dollar Swiss, nothing really there, right? But dollar index has a good level. Euro is a bit higher, as is sterling. Aussie and Kiwi have got close resistance levels. And you know what? Dollar CAD's right in the battle there as well. And you got to keep an eye on dollar yen. I mean, are the BOJ really going to come in before the CPI numbers? No way. Right? It'd be absolutely chaotic. Can you imagine if they came in, intervened, and the US CPI numbers are strong? Well, they've just done a whole heap of cash for nothing. All right, guys, that's it from me. Pretty exciting week. We've been waiting for these inflation numbers ever since the last month, right? And the cycle continues. So just keep an eye on your markets as you go through each of these sessions. You can always check the risk on, risk off profile. Keep an eye on the US equity futures. See if that's working across the board. See the European equity futures up, and we'll see how they go through the day. Bit of a risk on day at the moment. Okay, NASDAQ is the key. This is where all that AI cash went, right? I still think it's overdone massively. And the dollar generally lower across the board. So we do have some structure here we can work with. And And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. It's just hang on, right? Is all I can say. Is Wednesday's going to be huge. Today, there's bits and pieces, but just make sure you don't go and drop a heap of cash on an inconsequential trade when Wednesday's US numbers is where the game starts. After those numbers drop, we're going to have great trading conditions, I expect, if we get weakness or strength. And then Thursday, Friday should be good. Our only concern is, or my only concern is getting numbers on Wednesday out of the US that are like right on line with expectations, because that sort of really diffuses things. And we're sitting there going, well, now what do we do? These are sort of as expected. But anyway, we'll work that out when we get there. All right, guys, have a good one. All the best. Cheerio.